You're riding your e-scooter down the sidewalk, feeling like the future finally arrived, and then, bam, the handlebars wobble. You eat asphalt and suddenly you're Googling, who pays for this? It turns out that question is way more complicated than you'd think, and it sits right at the intersection of product law, personal injury law, and the wild west of micromobility. E-scooters aren't just toys anymore. Cities like Austin and Nashville have hundreds of thousands of rides logged every single month. But when someone gets hurt, the legal system basically has to play a game of hot potato, asking, was it the scooter's fault, the rider's fault, the road's fault, or maybe the company renting it to you? Here's where it gets interesting. Manufacturers can be held liable under something called product liability law. That means if the brakes failed, the throttle stuck, or the design was just fundamentally sketchy, the company that built the scooter might owe you a lot more than an apology. But operators, think Bird, Lime, or Spin, they don't just hand you a scooter and walk away whistling. They have a duty to maintain their fleet, inspect for damage, and make sure you're not hopping on a death trap with a cracked frame and a half-charged battery. Now here's the twist most people miss. A lot of rental agreements make you click, I agree on a waiver before you ever touch the throttle. Courts are actually split on how enforceable those waivers are, especially when the injury involves a defect the company should have caught. Think of it like buying a burger and being handed one that's totally raw. You can't just put a sticker on the bag that says not our fault if you get sick. Liability waivers have limits, and a good injury lawyer knows exactly where those limits are. The roadway interaction piece is where things get really layered, because now you're potentially pulling in a third party, the city or municipality responsible for maintaining the road. If a pothole launched you into traffic, the local government might share liability under what's called premises or governmental liability law, which varies wildly by state. Here's a little history nugget. E-scooter companies exploded onto city streets around 2017 and 2018 with basically zero regulatory framework. Cities were playing catch-up, faster than a toddler chasing a golden retriever, and injuries spiked because nobody had figured out the rules yet. Data from the Consumer Product Safety Commission showed that e-scooter injuries jumped to roughly 42,000 emergency room visits in 2021 alone. That's not a rounding error, that's an entire small city of people learning hard lessons about micromobility. When you're hurt, the investigation your lawyer does is almost like a detective story. They're pulling maintenance logs, rider agreements, city inspection records, and even the scooter's onboard data, if it exists. Modern scooters actually record speed, GPS, and braking data, which can be an absolute goldmine in a liability case. A common misconception is that if you were going too fast or not wearing a helmet, you automatically lose your case. That's not quite right. Many states use comparative negligence, which means fault can be split between you and the manufacturer or operator, and you can still recover damages even if you were partly responsible. So what does partly responsible actually look like in practice? Imagine you were going 20 miles per hour in a 10 mile per hour zone, but the scooter's brake line snapped due to a manufacturing defect. A jury might say you were 30% at fault and the manufacturer 70%, and your payout gets adjusted accordingly, which is still real money in your pocket. The human behavior side of this is fascinating too, because most riders dramatically underestimate how dangerous these things can be without gear. We see cars as dangerous and scooters as cute, but a collision at 15 miles per hour with no helmet is not cute. It's a traumatic brain injury waiting to happen. If you ever find yourself in this situation, the single most important thing you can do is document everything immediately. Photos, witness names, medical records, and a screenshot of whatever app you use to rent the scooter. Evidence disappears fast, and the companies have legal teams who start working the moment an incident is reported, so you want to be just as prepared. E-scooter injury law is genuinely one of the most evolving areas of personal injury right now, and the outcome of your case could hinge on details as small as a software update pushed the night before your ride. If you want to learn more about how our company helps people navigate exactly these kinds of cases, check out the links in the description.